so much great conversation going on, but start we must. 7:02. I hope you had a chance to take a look at some of our slideshow at least. We've had these portraits of our past speakers from the last 43 years in the library, in the lower level of the library, and we decided that something needed to be done with them to really share with the community. So thanks to William Hansen, who's a local artist and photographer, for his work on the images, and to Saul Van Hassel of the library staff, who created the slideshow. And I think we're going to try to get those on our website so that you will get an idea of all of the speakers that we've had over time. And we'll be happy to add Frank's name to the list after tonight. We will add your name, Frank. You probably noticed on page 12 of the program, along with the names of the speakers, along with the commendees, which are on page 12 also. I'm not sure how that happened, 2 page 12s, but you know, it makes everybody think a little bit. So I'm Pat Schaefer. I'm proud to serve as the president of the Friends of Hackley Public Library, and excited to bring you the 44th annual Charles Hackley Distinguished Lecture in the Humanities, and to honor 4 outstanding individuals who've contributed to our community. 53 years ago, the concept of Friends of Hackley Public Library was sketched out and developed with several friends who came together for lunch. Today we celebrate the accomplishments of the group of community citizens on keeping Charles Hackley's 1890 $200,000 investment, beginning with 14,750 books, a Muskegon treasure. Friends is a nonprofit group of members. We're about 175 strong this year, with a board that's entrusted to raise funds to promote the library and make its programs accessible to everyone for free. If you're already a member, thank you so much for being a member. If you are not, I'm going to do a shameless plug. There's an envelope in the back of your program that will make it very convenient for you to join and help us continue to make Hackley Library a community gem. Also in your program is a list of the Friends Board. Along with many volunteers, they're the dreamers, the planners, and the executors of our fundraisers. I'd like to recognize them and ask them to stand at this time so you know who they are. And several are sitting in the back. Stand up. Let us see who you are. Friends Board members. Karen's standing in the back, and several are standing in the back. Also, this event would not be possible without the lecture nominating committee and the event committee. They do the research and gather information that is presented to the board. And I'd like to ask them if they would stand if you serve on the selection committee or the planning committee. I know a few are here. Don't be bashful. Stand up. Holds several fundraising events during the year, most notably a used book sale in October, and the Bling Thing, a sale of used bling things in February. All the proceeds of those and a few other fundraisers go to the library. During our 53-year history, Friends has gifted the library over $1 million. This year alone, over $49,000. So thanks to you, the volunteers, our members of our library. I like to say pretty commendable for a group of volunteers. We're so appreciative of our sponsors for this lecture, so it can be offered free to the community. Listed in the program on page 2 of this evening's program are the sponsors, and I know you can all read them, and they are up here on the board, so we want to thank them as well. Give them a round of applause. Tonight, and I'd like to introduce Joe Zappacosta, our awesome library director.
I get to say a few words, and so again, I'm Joe Zappacosta. I'm the director here at the Hackley Public Library. Thank you for joining us for this 44th annual Charles Hackley Distinguished Lecture in the Humanities. I'm going to try and say that 5 times fast. The Friends of the Hackley Public Library Board of Trustees established this lecture series in 1982 with the simple yet powerful purpose to offer a free public lecture on or near May 25th, which is Hackley Day, which commemorates the day in 1888 that Charles Hackley promised the people of Muskegon to build a public library which continues to serve the community to this day. The Distinguished Lecture in Humanities is an award to and presented each year by someone with a strong tie to Muskegon who has made and continues to make significant contributions to the humanities. We honor individuals who have meaningful connection to the community through birth, residence, or significant work, and who have excelled in fields such as history, literature, languages, the visual or performing arts. Through their expertise, insight, perspectives, they use their work to educate and engage the public, enriching civic life by fostering reflection, dialogue, and deeper understanding of our shared human experience. The Commendation for Service to the Humanities Award recognizes individuals who are actively working to strengthen the humanities in Muskegon. These are people who are out there creating programs, they're leading organizations, they're teaching, they're preserving history, they're bringing art, ideas, and conversation to us. This event gives us an opportunity to recognize individuals who have made meaningful contributions to our community in memory of one of Muskegon's greatest benefactors. Charles H. Hackley believed deeply in the power of knowledge to improve lives, and his vision lives on through the institutions that he founded that promote learning, provide access to information, and foster civic engagement. Hackley believed that education and self-improvement were essential to individual success and to the well-being of the community he hoped to preserve, and used his wealth to ensure that everyday people would read, learn, and improve their lives. His generosity was meant to serve the broader Muskegon community, which like the workers, the immigrants, the families, and local residents who needed access to education, healthcare, public spaces, cultural opportunities. The library that he endowed, which proudly bears his name, was to be forever maintained as a library, a permanent home for ideas and for the free exchange of information that strengthens a democratic society. As we celebrate this 44th annual lecture, we honor not only his generosity, but also his conviction that a free public library open to all and committed to intellectual freedom can help shape a stronger, more informed, and enduring Muskegon. Through events like this, the Friends hope to promote an opportunity to reflect on the importance of freedom to read, to think, and express ideas openly. These principles are at the heart of every public library and remain essential to a vibrant, informed community. The Hackley Public Library stands as a living expression of that belief, ensuring that access to ideas and freedom of expression remain available to us all. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Friends for continuing this important tradition and for all those that continue to support the library and for all their continued support of the library. They do so much, just like Pat was mentioning. I also want to thank all tonight's participants for being here and making this a special and wonderful event. I want to thank the nominating committee for their thoughtful work in selecting our award recipients and for the sponsors for their generosity in supporting the Friends in their mission. This evening we recognize individuals who live and work and reflect those high standard of values, bringing people together, encouraging curiosity, and strengthening our community through the humanities. After tonight's lecture, I invite you to join us at the library for a reception to meet the award winners and enjoy some time together. The reception will be held at the library in the main level and will include some refreshments and an opportunity to ask for more follow-up questions and to meet someone new. We hope that you'll join us and continue to celebrate this celebration. So as soon as we're done with our lecture, we're all going to head over to the library for some light refreshments. At this time, I'm pleased to introduce Roy Portiga, who will present the Commendation for Service to the Humanities Awards. Thank you.
So it's my pleasure and honor to introduce the recipients of the Charles H. Hackley Commendation Award for Service to the Humanities. The definition of humanities, for me, is sort of like picking up Jell-O. It has to do with what makes us human. But I certainly understand the word service. The criteria for this award concludes wonderfully by putting these two concepts together. And it says the following areas are to be considered: contribution to the good of Muskegon County, leadership within Muskegon County, background significant to commendation, length of time in Muskegon, and community involvement. The recipients tonight certainly meet these criteria. First, I'm going to present the award to Nancy and Don Crandall. And I've been asked to have you actually come on up here while I introduce you. It's interesting, the certificate for this award is Don and Nancy Crandall together. You don't each individually get a certificate. But the fact that they are being presented this award together is just so appropriate. What they have done for Muskegon County for many years, all these requirements, you meet them all. What you have done, you've done together. I think of your service to church, Rotary, the missions to Central America, South America, the wonderful, generous philanthropy to this county. It's been done together. And I'm sure many couples out here can appreciate this. Each does not do what they do without the support, love, probably advice. A little bit of constructive criticism occasionally from the partner. Just want to say individually, Nancy, I got to know you when I met Don as a board member at the college. But before that, I can remember reading about you in the paper quite often. And I had also heard things from colleagues and so forth. And I can say this genuinely. Your reputation was a person who tried to bring people to consensus. Never sacrificing principle, but wanting unity, as opposed to enjoying dividing people. That was your reputation, bringing people together. And let us... It's our speaker. Frank, that's probably, you set that as an alarm to remind you to be here. But Nancy, I was just going to say, remember, our generation, well, we're now used to this. Women are ahead of everything. They're in government, leadership roles, business, etc. It wasn't like that. And you were one of the people to break through the glass ceiling. And Don is a physician. We all know that. And I don't know of any greater service to humanity than the medical profession. Thank you. And in addition to that, as the bios mentioned, and I'm trying not to repeat everything that's in the bio, but Don has loved, enjoyed, in fact, felt duty to be part of the local, state, national medical associations, all for the purpose of improving the provision of health care to this country. And then about 20 years ago, along with many other things that Don's been involved in, he got involved at the college, elected trustee to the board of trustees. And that's where I've had the opportunity to work with him. What a leader. What a person who demands excellence. Also, for all those that know Don, you have to have objective measurements of improvement. We don't just say improvement, we want to see it. But Don has been our representative to our state organization, not surprisingly. And in addition, he has risen to levels of leadership there. Both of these people have pushed for excellence from themselves, from others, for the purpose of improving humankind, especially here in Muskegon County. It's my honor to award them the Charles H. Hackley Commendation for Services to the Humanities.
This was a surprise to us, a very pleasant surprise and quite an honor. And Roy assured us that the introduction would be very short and we had 2 minutes to respond. Patty mentioned 50 years, that 53, the library has been functioning as a library in this community. We moved here in 1970, which means 56 years we've been here. Neither of us from this area. We moved from Detroit, having been in Muskegon once. We decided to move here for a variety of reasons, but one of them was we wanted to be in a community where we could take part in the community and perhaps make a difference. We've tried to do that over the years in a number of different ways, individually and together. And with the community's help, because it really is a community endeavor, I think we've managed to do that, and this is a very nice recognition of that. We thank you all very much, the committee and the library, and all of you for being here and being part of this wonderful community.
To Nancy's comment about wanting to contribute to the community, the benefit we received is far greater than the effort we put into it, I can tell you that. My first experience in Muskegon when I arrived in 1970, after I was here a very short period of time, 3 or 4 months, I was approached by one of the premier surgeons in town and asked if I would join him in a partnership. And we sat down and had this conversation. It was Max Buzzard. And my vision and his vision ultimately was we needed to do more than just have a partnership. We had to develop a surgical group that could attract and support high quality specialized surgical physicians in this community. So we developed Muskegon Surgical Associates very rapidly. We brought Fred Brown in, who developed a peripheral vascular. Steve Demos we brought in that developed the heart program, and this continues on today. The Muskegon Surgical Associates is still going. That we have quality surgeons that have been able to be recruited into this community and stayed and had great careers. And that's just one of the examples of how this community supports efforts like this to bring quality, and it's a community effort and not just ours alone. Thank you.
One of the areas of the humanities is art. People can be emotionally moved by the Mona Lisa. something more local here, tornado over Kansas. But I get emotionally moved with nature. Nature is as beautiful as anything that we can create, maybe more so. And in this area, my goodness, we're blessed with beautiful Lake Michigan, Muskegon River, etc., etc. But we all know that it went through some hard times, real hard times. We're beyond that because of one person for this last 2 decades in this community. Not to say that there was not assistance there, but this person, Kathy Evans, will be a recipient tonight. Now, I'll say a little bit more in a moment, but Kathy, you please come on. So Kathy has an interesting story. So she graduates from Reese Puffer. She takes a few classes at MCC, and she becomes a stay-at-home mom. In the early 90s, her passion, environment, started to take over. She had a little more time to do it. She started to volunteer for some environmental agencies. In 95, she becomes employed by the Muskegon Conservation District. And here she says, this is where I really learned my stuff, where I learned how to deal with public agencies, how I started to be able to get grant money, how I learned how to do environmental stuff, boots on the ground. And it was with that background that she then became manager in 2003. Now I have it here, let's see. It was manager of the environmental program area of West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission. She worked with maybe 5 others. This is like a 6-person team. And this is what they would do. And think about, we'll talk just a moment about certain areas of Muskegon. The Amoco Tank Farm disaster. Rudderman Creek being fed by the tank farm up on Sherman. The mouth of Ryerson Creek. The celery farms adjacent to the causeway on the east end of Bear Lake. The Zephyr tank fiasco up on M120. These areas all fed into our lakes, our streams. They made this a very negative area when it came to the environment. So this little group, they would have to identify a problem. Then they would write up a plan for the problem. Then they would use that plan to go for grants from Little Muskegon here. Then they would get a grant. Now you had to enter the contract with that agency. I've seen some of those contracts, unbelievable. And they require so much communication back. You don't get millions of dollars without a lot of communication. Then they would have to go put out RFPs, bids. Then they'd have to decide who to hire for the contractors and consultants. And then once the project started, you have to ride herd on it to make sure it all gets done, that all that money is spent properly, et cetera, et cetera. This 6-person team did that for the remediation of all those problems that I just mentioned. Each one. And she's passionate. And she doesn't get away with that without having a spouse who's willing to put up with that, and that's Mark. People, we do not have the humanities if we don't have humanity. And you will not have humanity if you don't have a healthy environment. I am pleased to present the Charles H. Hackley Commendation for Service to the Humanities Award to Kathy Evans.
The Friends of Hackley Public Library, thank you so much for this honor. It means a lot to me. My family, as Roy mentioned, you don't get anything done without the support of your significant other, your family, and I had that ever since I first started really volunteering to do environmental work. So thank you so much for Mark and Dan and Chris. And the Muskegon Lake Watershed Partnership. That's really all of us. There are so many people that meet every month still, ever since 1993, a public meeting every month. Join us. We still are working on the lake and the watershed. It's not over. We are not on the area of concern list anymore, though. That is a good thing. We had 7,000 feet, that's almost a mile and a half of shoreline restored where there was broken concrete and scrap metal and all of that. We had 150 acres of wetlands and open water habitat restored and tons of debris removed from under the water. You can't see it, but it was cleaned up. Lots of good projects done. So I think the thing, though, that strikes me the most about this whole experience, going back more than 30 years, is that we started out with a community that I think collaborated well in many areas, but the environment was not one of them. We were afraid of it. And it was really hard to get people to come together, and we finally did, and now we're really strong at that. This community is so good at getting together to solve environmental problems. Just like Roy said, you identify a problem, you set a goal, you make a plan, you seek some funding, and you see it through, and you just perseverance and persistence, all the way, and you'll get it done. It might take a long time, but it's worth it when it happens.
The last recipient tonight for this award goes to Phyllis Wahlberg in memoriam. And John, if you choose to, you want to come down here? John, of course, is Phyllis's husband. We attend the same church. Known John for a long time. What a wonderful family. Phyllis Wahlberg. To me, as an educator, she was an educator, and you can't have a more quintessential role for contributing to the humanities than that. She taught English for the Muskegon School District for years. Then she became an administrator of special programs for the district. So this would include things like special ed, English as a second language, free lunch, hot lunch program, special medical programs. So she impacted, of course, countless students and their families. Then, in addition to this, for over 20 years, she was a mediator for the Muskegon Dispute Resolution Center, helping just regular people solve problems within families, with neighbors, etc. Oh, she was president of Every Woman's Place, and as many in this group know, so involved with the Friends of Hackley Library, as well as the committee that gives out these awards. Officer in all of them. I met her on that committee that helps to hand out these awards. I found this, but I was also told, like by Pat Schaefer, multiple other people, this is how you dealt with Phyllis. Phyllis was warm. kind, level-headed, logical, soft-spoken, but firm. A soft-spoken servant. That's who we are honoring tonight with Phyllis Wahlberg in memoriam. John would like to say a few words. Unfortunately, we can't get the mic down here.
I can yell.
Okay.
And it's not 2 minutes either. First of all, congratulations to the other commendees. Well deserved, and nice to have people like that in the community. My family and I would like to thank the Friends of the Library for recognizing Phyllis's contribution. Am I loud enough? Yes. Okay. And honoring her with this award. Rotary International has a motto that's service above self. And while Phyllis wasn't a Rotarian, and she probably didn't even know the motto, she lived it every day of her life. Tonight's program has a biography of the places that Phyllis volunteered. She was very active in just all kinds of stuff. She was a dedicated volunteer to the library, Every Woman's Place, CASA, mediation, the whole gamut. Even was a guide at the Hackley House for about 20 years. So she was always going somewhere, doing something. So while her family and friends miss her, she's also going to be missed by the community at large. They might not know why or sense it, but she's not there contributing, so that's how she'll be missed. Phyllis and I had written letters to each other and filed them away so that in the event of one of our deaths, the survivor could read letter, some final communications and summaries and stuff like this. And I always expected her to read mine first, but it didn't work out that way. So her letter to me was very appropriate in one particular statement, particularly as being recognized tonight. And it sums up her life mission, and I want to quote from the letter. I tried to make a difference to others in a helpful, loving way, to lift them above their apparent current problems. I don't know if I succeeded, but that's what I tried to do, end quote. And life well lived, service above self. Thank you.
And I just want to say, as I did with the others, Phyllis doesn't do what she does without John.
Well, I will do this. Tonight, our introduction for our lecture is going to be John Martin. So if you could come up.
Our annual Hackley Lecture honors someone who has made a significant contribution to the humanities. A review of the list of past lecturers reveals a vast majority have had a connection to Muskegon, but they are now living elsewhere. Relatively few lecturers have been living in Muskegon at the time of presenting their lecture. This year is an exception to that familiar pattern. Frank Bednarek is almost a native, having lived here for many years. But his contribution is not to a singular niche of the humanities. Rather, his many contributions span a very wide range of activities. Frank came to Muskegon many years ago to join the staff of Muskegon County government. And within a few years, he was appointed to be county administrator, that is, head of county government, a position that he held for 16 years. During his tenure, there were numerous major county-wide projects. Those were possible because Frank taught our multiplicity of local governments to cooperate rather than to engage in destructive competition. After leaving county government, Frank was a principal in a major architectural firm, and at the same time became a leader in what might be called the volunteer community. Most of us know that the chairman of a volunteer group must be a ringmaster, a negotiator, a motivator of other volunteers. At all of this, Frank excelled. He served as a community college trustee. He was chair of Mercy Hospital, now Trinity Health, at the time the new hospital was constructed. Later, he chaired fundraising for the reconstructed White Lake Playhouse. His crowning achievement, if I can put it that way, is where we are located. Frank has served more than a decade as chair of the Muskegon Museum of Art and has been the motivating force in raising over $16 million to construct the new addition that in effect is a completely new museum building. Yeah. The museum where we are houses one of the finest art collections in the Midwest United States. Frank has not just presided over many projects. He has gotten people to pull in the same direction. He has gotten things done. So his contribution to the humanities is to better the lives of those in our entire region. Frank has titled his talk, Bad Bunny, Snoop Dogg, and Martha Stewart, Why We Need Them. No doubt we will discover why they are essential. Frank, you need to tell us.
Thank you, John. You showed half my slideshow. I really appreciate it. John and I have been friends for many, many years. John was our personal attorney. He worked with me professionally for many years. He's been a volunteer at the Museum of Art. And he's still a very good friend. So thank you. I appreciate your comments. I want to be sure that you can hear me here. Can you hear me well? My talk today is about the humanities and how the humanities are doing in Muskegon. And I want to talk about the challenges that we face, as well as the opportunities that we have. But Before that, I wanted to mention that our honorees tonight, Don and Nancy, I've worked with them for over 20 years in one capacity or another. Just last week, I asked Nancy if she would do something for us, and she said, well, how could I refuse, right? It's the same thing. And of course, Kathy worked with us on the Heritage Landing, Causeway. There are many, many, many projects that we worked on right in the beginning of your career and for many, many years. So congratulations to you. You're wonderful people, and I'm proud to know you and work with you. Roy mentioned the definition of humanities, and there are all kinds of definitions of humanities as you go online. I tried to avoid AI, and none of this is AI. But most definitions of humanities include history, literature, linguistics, law, music, theater, poetry, philosophy, architecture, art, architecture, archaeology, and comparative religions. Now, I'm going to leave out almost all of this. My definition for tonight is simply going to be a simple one. It's about our books, our literature, our history, our music, our theater, our fine arts, and a little bit about architecture. Philosophy and law, I'm going to leave for someone else. Archaeology, I know nothing about it, so do that. But I would say that the purpose of the humanities is really a tool for navigating the human experience. If you think about it, it's a tool for navigating the human experience. And for the last 10 years, I've had on my desk an article from the New York Times on August 21st, 2016. And a part of that piece says, the arts are vital to everyone. Art can soothe us, and it can stretch us. It can stretch us by exposing us to concepts we've never imagined before, or by leading us to wrestle with ambiguity, multiple interpretations, or artistic expression that we find jarring. A play, a movie, a song, a book, a poetry reading, or a sculpture can expose us to concepts we've never imagined and can be a launch pad to stimulate conversation. The arts can combat indifference, ignorance, and polarization. The arts can transform us from day to day. Everyone needs the humanities. I want to say that again. The arts can transform us from the day to day. Everyone needs the humanities. So to start with, what I'd like to do is talk about what's happening at the national level with the humanities, and then kind of bring it down to our level and how it impacts us here. And most of this I'm sure you know, but I just want to call attention to a few of the things because there is an effort at the federal level to really remove the humanities from the funding and support of the federal government. And it's, the approach is massive. It's throughout the humanities. It's not just one sector, it's many. But I just want to mention a few things, of course. For all of us, the Kennedy Center is probably one of the supreme supporters of humanities in the entire United States, and it's closed. It's closed for remodeling, and who knows when it's going to open or how it's going to be funded. We don't know what it's going to be in the future. We have no idea. And then, of course, you may remember the Department of Governmental Efficiency. Maybe it's still there, I don't know. But it cut more than $100 million from the National Endowment for the Arts. Now, on January the 25th, it disbanded the Committee on Arts and Humanities. In May of 2025, the National Endowment for the Arts just abruptly canceled 560 grants to humanities organizations throughout the United States without notice. So these were funded, people were staffed, they were producing works, and without notice, they were defunded. Also in 2025, through executive order, the National Public Radio, NPR, the Public Broadcast System, PBS, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting were terminated. Wiped out. No funds from the federal government. Now, an appeals court has ruled that that was illegal, and of course it's being appealed, so we don't know, but at this point in time, none of them have received federal funds. Now, many of you here I know, and I'm sure like me, you're getting a solicitation almost every day from PBS, from all of the media that has been supportive of this, because they're very eager to continue the programming, and they obviously are working very hard to sustain themselves. Now, more importantly, I think what you need to know is that the, back on that. What you need to know is that the National Endowment for the Arts in the 2027 budget, $208 million is eliminated. This year, they're receiving $208 million. The proposal for next year is a deduction of $208 million. For the National Endowment for the Humanities, a reduction of $198 million. And for the Museum of Library Services, I should say, a deduction of $291 million. Altogether, about $750 million wiped out for the humanities. Now, this was done in the 2025 budget, so we have the Congress that reinstated some of it, so we'll see what happened. But the effort is to eliminate any federal funding for the humanities. So now let me move on and keep that in mind. So we have that, and now let's move on to Michigan. It gets a little better, but not much, because they never spent very much to begin with. But we did get some. And I remember about 10 years ago, volunteering with the Museum of Art, we could expect maybe $75,000 to $100,000, maybe $125,000 a year in grants from the state for various projects. This year, we received zero, nothing. I do a little bit of work with the theater in Whitehall, and they did receive a small grant of $30,000. But mostly what happens in the state funding is that it's for small projects, it's not for sustainability. The funding has gone down tremendously over the years. But what does this mean locally? We have the federal activity and we have the state activity, but then we have all of our cultural institutions here locally, and what does that mean? Well, what it really means is that there's more competition for the local dollars, because all of us that are working in the humanities are looking for funds. Yes, there are some tax-supported institutions within the humanities here, but for the most part, the humanities are funded by gifts and charitable contributions. And we're looking for that, and now there are even more people looking for that and looking for more money. And what does that mean to us? It's hard to get, and it's hard to sustain. And then there's another thing going on in the humanities at the national level, and that's what I call censure. And how do we look at that? What do we expect? At the federal level, there's just multiple efforts to change. You can hardly keep up with what these changes are. So I'll just mention a few of them. The Smithsonian Institution has had to modify their exhibitions. Many of their people have left. The funding has been terminated or reduced. There's a strong effort to remove programming from TV. Jimmy Kimmel and Sharon Alfonsi, for example. Sharon Alfonsi from 60 Minutes is presumably on the chopping block. And tonight, by the way, is Stephen Colbert's last night. So what we have is an effort to try to change what is happening in our world. And that's where Bad Bunny, Snoop Dogg, and Martha Stewart come in. And I could have said, I could have had the title being Beyonce, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and Billie Eilish. Or I could have had it be Ryan Gosling, Taylor Swift, and Kehinde Wiley. But what they are, what these people are, is a counter to the negative change. because what they're doing is promoting a positive change, a view that that simply looks at the world as being one that we should all belong together, that we should participate, and that we should respect one another. And I was very amazed about Bad Bunny's Super Bowl show, and I just want to share some things with you. During his performance, that 13 minutes, it was in a foreign language, and I didn't understand it, but I watched it. He had 135.4 million views in that period of time, just on that. But in addition to that, his media presence across the world, and this is tracked through YouTube and all the other social media. During that show, he had 4.1 billion views. Can you imagine? And if you look at these two things, for the population of the United States, his views were 40% of the population, 342 million people, and he had 42% looking at his show. If you look at the world, at that 4.1 billion, that's 1/2 of the world's population looking at it. So how do these people influence us? Let's look at Billie Eilish is another one that I like. I mean, she's a wonderful entertainer. I don't know, she's not my generation, but she had 3.1 billion streams on Spotify just since yesterday, from her period up to yesterday, 3.1 billion. The first person on Spotify to do that. Taylor Swift is probably the most well-known performer in the world, and she has 100 million listeners streaming a month. It's just incredible. But what these people are is, I think, a counter to the negativity that's going on, because they're generally all positive, they're for humanity, they're for people. They want everybody to be aware of the human condition. They are influencers that transcend race, religion, age, and viewpoints. Very important for us, extremely important. So now I want to get here to our local piece. And Kirk told me how to do this, now I'm not being able to do it. Now I want to go to the slideshow. Okay. So we covered that. We covered the influence, and the thing about the influencers, if we don't have those influencers, we have other influencers, and we have other agendas, or at least we have influencers on all sides of the aisle. So I think that's a healthy thing. Now what I want to do is talk about our cultural institutions, what we have in Muskegon. And of course, how can I not start with this? I mean, it's fantastic. It's it's a federal deposit library program, which I knew. They have genealogical services, an interlibrary loan system, digital services, and they have a wonderful following. If you look every day, I'm down here almost every day, there are people in that facility. It's a fabulous building as well. And when I started this program, I thought, well, I'll just take our cultural institutions and I'll compare them to cultural institutions around the world. So I thought, well, I ran into the Dublin Library. I was there once, and I thought, that's a good comparison, and it really is. Look at this, it's pretty nice. So then, of course, the next one I looked at was the Muskegon Museum of Art. I do have a little bit of love for the Museum of Art, and I thought I would do the same thing. And so here's the Whitney Museum, and then here's ours. And before we started that program, I would say that Kirk Hallman, I saw him somewhere here, and I did visit the Whitney, and a lot of what was in the Whitney was inspirational to us in designing this museum, and I'm very proud of that. And then when recently we had the good fortune to go to Barcelona, and we went to the Miro Museum, and again, you look at this contemporary thing, and then you look back at us. Pretty good, I think we hold our own. And then, this is where John ended my slideshow. We have the Lakeshore Museum, and aren't they wonderful? I don't know if anybody's here from them tonight, but they have an array of things that are just so important to our history and our culture. You know, not only the Lakeshore Museum itself, but the Heritage Museum, the Hackley and Hume homes, and the Fire Barn, and the Coming to the Lakes exhibit, science exhibits, children's programming, essential to our culture. And then we have around the county the USS Silver Slides, you know, we have the Hackley Hill. Isn't that a wonderful picture? It's just, I mean, it just shows you how wonderful this is. The Silver Slides, very important museum and exhibit in Muskegon. It's actually going to be going into dry dock, and it's going to be repaired this summer, and there is a wonderful grant to have that happen, and I'm sure they could use more help as well. I think a lot of you probably came because you thought I was going to ask for anything tonight. That's wrong. But I wanted to share that. And then we also have the White Lake Lighthouse and Maritime Museum. Very important, beautiful little museum up on the channel at White Lake. If you haven't been there, take a visit. It's really something. And particularly, as Roy said, if you like nature, it's a good place to be. And then we have our Frauenthal Theater, the wonderful theater, and the Beardsley, and the Community Foundation, and a wonderful contribution to the humanities in the community. And I want to mention the Playhouse at White Lake. I see Beth Beeman, our executive director's here, and we have a wonderful little playhouse up there. We have a summer season. It's just about to start, so please come if you can, and enjoy it. I also want to talk a little bit about architecture, because we really have some astounding architecture here, and it's just like little thought of in terms of the humanities. But look at this. I mean, you know, St. Francis is probably one of the most fabulous churches in the entire United States. I mean, it's the architecture is phenomenal. Marcel Brewer, I mean, what not to like about this, right? The county building, I spent 29 years at the county building, and what they did to it just now, this renovation of the county building, has just made mid-century modern something really wow. I mean, it is. I hope they keep it and don't do what they did with the last county building, so that it will be lasting. And look at this, the City Hall of Muskegon. It's a wonderful example of brutalist architecture. You know, I mean, it's almost perfect. You know, I know that I read a lot of the comments when it was first built, and it wasn't real terribly positive in Muskegon. But this is a positive building, and it's very important in the architectural world. And so I think that we need to recognize that. And then, of course, the depot, again, is Romanesque revival. It's in wonderful condition. Bob keeps it that way. And then the Hackley building is newer Romanesque, the Hackley Public School building. Wonderful building. We're hopeful it survives, for sure. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the outdoor public art. And the outdoor public art was really established, the committee for downtown art was established in about 2005. And many of you probably remember Pat Johnson began that group. And it's hard to believe that it's been in existence for 21 years. And there's some people here who have been on the committee the entire time. That's not saying a lot. But what the Downtown Arts Committee has done is brought art into the community. And I think that sharing with you what is here makes a meaningful statement in terms of what Muskegon is today as compared to what it was before. And this, of course, is Richard Hunt, Muskegon Rising. This was done in 2008. You know, it's a fabulous piece of art, and Richard Hunt is known around the world. He's very, very famous in Chicago. If you go to Randolph and Michigan Avenue, he has a wonderful piece on that corner. Ours is better, but it is a good piece. This is a terrible slide, I'm sorry about that, but James Clover, the sculpture of stars, has been around for a long time. You may remember it was down on by the restaurant, and then it's been moved around. It's a wonderful piece of art, and it's now in front of our library, or in front of our post office, which is great. The Uri Arch has been here since 1973, and I remember it being in front of City Hall and out on the road and back downtown, but now we have it in a good place, right in the center of town. And then this is a piece that the Downtown Arts Committee did, and I really like this photograph. It's titled Celebrating Muskegon, but I like to call it Lollipops at Night. And by Harvey Littleton and Kate Vogel. And look at this. This is our latest edition. Alice Aycock. This is a tribute, I think, to all of Muskegon, and a fabulous piece of art. And then we have One Drop. Who could miss that? We drive by it almost every day, a lot of us do. In the forum, I leave that. And All My Relations by Jason Quigley. You know, one thing to think about with the art, the pieces of art, altogether, there have been, I think, 19 pieces. Judy Hayner's back here. She's been running this program for a while. 19 pieces of art, and the ones that I've shown are significant. And these are significant artists. They're well-known artists. They're respected, and it adds a beauty to our community that you just can't overlook anymore. You travel around here, and it's really something. So what I thought I would do is, because I feel that the Museum of Art is the linchpin of all that's going on culturally down here, mainly because it's a museum of the world and not just a museum for Muskegon. I had a friend visit last summer from California, and he was flying out, but I encouraged him, if you have 3 hours, stop and go to the Museum of Art, and he did. And he sent me an email later that night, and he said, I stopped at the museum and I spent my entire 3 hours there, and I thought, this is something for Muskegon. For a city of this size, this is a wonderful piece of art. And then he said, you know, I thought that was disparaging. This is a world-class museum. And Muskegon has it. So I want to show you some of my favorite pictures in the museum. And I see some people from the museum here, so it's in my opinion. And of course, I can't first mention the Beth Lippman sculpture and art that is hanging in the entryway, because it is kind of transitional. It's like the inside-outside piece of art. It could go either way. And as long as we keep the lights on, you'll get to see it all the time. The Muskegon Museum of Art doesn't have a whole lot of art outside of the United States, but what it does have is wow. I mean, and here's one of them, St. John and Penitence, from 1518. Kirk tells me it should be earlier, maybe earlier than that. And this picture has been around the world. We've loaned it everywhere, but it's here almost every day for you to see. Martin Luther, by Lucas Cranach the Elder, one of the renowned artists of all time, 1537. It's hanging right upstairs today. And then, of course, my favorite one, Rembrandt, self-portrait. I didn't know Betty Walker was going to be here tonight, but she just gave us the Rembrandt. Roy mentioned Tornado over Kansas, and it is iconic, and it is one of our very, very best paintings. And Edward Hopper, New York restaurant, what a picture. And look at this, color no objection. Does this fit our museum well? It certainly does. John George Brown, 1898. And there's a little backstory on this that I want to tell. Jane Connell, our former curator, is here. Jane, raise your hand. And when we celebrated the 100th anniversary, Jane asked that we consider purchasing this work, and we did. And it was a work that she encountered at her first job, and all those years later, I won't say how many, we acquired it for the Museum of Art for the celebration of our 100th anniversary. Pretty good, eh? And then this is what I really like, because art is to tell a story. You know, if you really like art, every time you go into a museum, you're looking for something to tell a story. And this one tells such a great story. Most of you probably don't remember it. Well, some of you probably do. The Lone Ranger. You know, but look at what he's saying. Tano says, "You lied to me," and Lone Ranger says, "Get used to it." Sort of says it all in just 6 words. And then there's this. This is one of my favorite pictures in the entire museum. And it's called Lockjury, and by Guy Pinet Dubois in 1950. And just look at this picture for a few minutes. It's just, there's so many stories that can go on in here. And I've talked with several people about this as to what does it mean. Is the woman in the picture the holdout?
Yes.
Or is she the leader? Is the guy way up on the right? What is he like? And some people have suggested to me that really this is a picture that actually is just like the Last Supper. Was the Last Supper the inspiration? Is that Judas in the right-hand corner? Just when you go to a museum and you look at it every day you go, there's something wonderful and fabulous about what's in there, and you can enjoy it. So, what can we conclude about all of this as we go through? I think we can conclude that the humanities, our museums, our institutions in Muskegon are pretty healthy. But what do we have to do to keep them there? And I think that what we have to do is to first of all, volunteer. Every cultural institution in this county, whether they have some tax support or not, every cultural institution thrives because of their volunteers. If there were no volunteers, I can tell you the Museum of Art would not be here because we couldn't sustain what we do. And if you look at every cultural institution, that's about the same case. Maybe for a while, but the volunteers are essential to these operations. And they grow, these institutions grow through the strength of the volunteers. Secondly, if the institution is a member organization or a season ticket seller or both, join and buy. It's also important that there be attendance. You have to have attendance in order to survive. You can't run this museum without people coming in. And then, of course, what's the purpose? So we're here. And contribute to your ability and desire. Be passionate about cultural, and be passionate about the institutions that you love. I've worked for many years raising funds for organizations, and I'm very happy to that. And I think that when you consider a gift, remember that the asker doesn't care if you say no, or that you have another thing. I've been told no a lot of times, and what I usually say, and what we say in the business is, no to us fundraisers actually means maybe. So we'll be back. And one last thing, you know, some people think that giving a little bit won't make a difference. And that couldn't be further from the truth. That every little bit counts. So yes, we need contributions to the best of your ability, but every little bit counts. And this is a quote attributable to the Dalai Lama. If you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. So now, I just have a few minutes more, but I want to tell you what I concluded after doing this, because I started to survey all of these institutions and what's going on, and I went piece by piece. Should I put this in? Should I put that in? What should I do? And what started hitting me was what we have in this small space of really just the boundary between 6th Street and Terrace Avenue. I would say even 6th Street and 1st Street, and Webster to Muskegon. So you're looking about 6 blocks. You know, and if you walk at all, you're looking at 12 blocks. And, whoops. That was going to be a delete. But I'm going to transgress for a minute and tell you about it. Just recently, I had an opportunity to visit the World War II Museum in New Orleans. It's a Smithsonian institution. And they have an exhibit up right now called Degenerate. And let me tell you, it is something, it is eye-opening, and it is a wonderful exhibit. I'm kind of surprised it's still there, but it's online. You can go on and look at it and take a look at it. It is remarkable. And it will give you a real feeling about how propaganda can change institutions, and particularly humanities institutions. So we'll skip that. But now what I want to do is talk about the 6th Street a little bit and give you an idea of what is on 6th Street, because it is just hugely important. So we have the architecture, we have of course the Hackley and Hume homes in the carriage house, we have the Romanesque revival of the Hackley Library, the depot, the Muskegon Public Schools. We have the stone turret house. We actually have the historic wing of this Muskegon Museum of Art, which is a Beaux Arts classical building, which is like it's a fabulous building, it's beautiful. And when we were doing this project, we made sure we kept it entirely intact. So if you look at it, be sure to notice that. And then we have the Methodist Church across the street that is Gothic Revival. Wonderful. And then we have the Lakeshore Museum. Now we're still talking about 6 blocks. The Lakeshore Museum homes, the Fire Barn, the Skolnick House, the LST 393, the Muskegon Museum of Art, the Frauenthal Theater, the Beersley Theater, the MMA Auditorium, the Convention Center, the Block, the Corner, the outdoor art. I just mentioned a few of these, the Uri Arch, the Hunt, the Clover, the ACOC. 25 other pieces of public art are in that 6-block period. So what we have is a cultural concentration that is like no other. And I think that what we have to do is to start marketing and developing that to be something that we showcase for Muskegon. It is truly remarkable. If you've been to any other city anywhere, be envious of this 6-block area. And we have it right here. With the great library. So there's good and bad. I think mostly good. We have to be on the alert. We have a good system here. And I thought that how I would end this is with a little bit of humor, because the humanities has to have a little bit of humor. You know? Behind the scenes, people laugh at things and do things differently. So what I tried to do is pick out a piece from the humanities that we featured. So if we look at music in our symphony orchestra, which we're so very proud of, it's in the Frauenthal Center. It's my little piece for this is, why did Beethoven kill his 2 chicks?
Why?
they would not stop saying bok bok. You can tell I've done a lot of research on this. So in literature and writing, I have, why is a thesaurus great? Why? There's no other word for it. I think Joe will like that. How could you not? This is also from literature. You know, in the manuscript world, which we don't really have very many manuscripts here, but the manuscripts in the art world are really good, and they're very early. They're before printing, and so they were all done manually, and they were done with gold leaf, and you know, there are many art institutions that have them. And this little piece comes from thinking about those manuscripts. The monks were busy in the monastery copying those beautiful illuminated manuscripts that they used to do when one young monk suggested that since they were copies, perhaps it might be timely to examine the original to make sure that their copies were correct. The abbot agreed and sent the monk down into the basement of the monastery to find and examine the original. The young monk was away for some time, and finally the abbot went to find him. And when he did, he found him in tears, and he asked him, what was wrong? Through his tears, the monk blurted. The word was celebrate. Move on to art. So I have two for art, well maybe three. How many surrealists does it take to change a light bulb? No, nobody knows? Two, one to do it and another to hold the fish. That's an insider joke. But you'll get this one. What's the difference between an art student and a table? A table can support itself. Now this sounds like my art ability, so I want to share this. My art teacher said my self-portrait looked horrible. However, she did say it was extremely realistic. I told you in the beginning I was going to leave out philosophy and the law. But I thought I ran into a philosophy piece by Socrates that I thought, you see, I started way back on humanities. Socrates says, by all means marry. If you get a good wife, you'll be happy. If you get a bad one, you'll become a philosopher. So I'm going to leave you with this. The humanities can affect your life. They affect you in many, many ways. I beg you and ask you to be supportive of the humanities in any way that you can. And I want to give you a few quotes at the end. Charles Darwin. If I had to live life again, I would have made a rule to read some poetry and listen to some music at least once a week. Mm-hmm. And then I want to say something about the law, and this is from Aristotle, not John, Aristotle. At his best, man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst. Remember to volunteer, remember to read a book, remember to visit a museum. And one last thought. Remember, Muskegon is home to the world's largest weather vane. take a few questions. Joe said I could take a few questions if you have them. And I do want to remind everyone we are having a reception at the library, and we would like to have all of you visit. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I was really excited about the presentation when I watched when I saw your title. So I've been doing a little research, and today I went on YouTube and I listened to his name is Tad Stromerler, and he talked about hope merchants, and I thought it was a good thing. But he described hope merchants as persons who know the engine is smoky, but wants to say that it's Smith's. He also said that the problem is that the country that we were sold in school and on PBS does not exist anymore. And then he talked about the difference between illusions and being disillusioned. He said illusion is like being tricked and being, kind of like being tricked, I guess the best way to put it. But disillusion is being able to find out that you understand the trick. And he feels like where we are now, most of us are in that stage of disillusion because we can't believe where we are, but we need to be able to understand where we are in order to be able to improve it. And the other thing he said is that the feeling that many of us are experiencing is what dying fiction feels like when it's out the door. So what we are experiencing is not the sudden arrival of truth, but the loss of fiction, and that spared us from having to look at the machinery. And I thought about that by you being an architect or engineer, we're having to look at the machinery. And this is my question. Perfect. This is my question. He said that power doesn't concede to decency, it concedes to leverage. And my question is, what is our leverage at this point?
Well, I think that there are all different levels to the answer to that question. But obviously, what you're getting at is kind of the propaganda side of public relations, and how do we accept changes that are occurring that are not in what we would consider the best interest of focusing on humanities. And that's where I feel that the influencers are very important, and it's at the very top level, because they're standing up for the humanities. And even though there is more negative coming, and sure to be more negative coming, there are also positive people. And we here can also be influencers. We have to stand up for the positive. We have to stand up for our humanities. We have to support them. And the humanities have struggled throughout centuries. I mean, it's not like we're the first people to be struggling with humanities. So, but what we're learning is that we can support them, and that we can support them at all levels, and we should expect to support them at all levels. Very, very good. I appreciate it. Yes.
Hi, Frank. Can you tell us more about how this all wraps into Snoop and Martha?
Well, that's where I say that it wraps in, is that they are influencers, and what they are humanitarians. Every one of those people are humanitarians. They support the arts, they're artists themselves. I looked at some of the others that I mentioned, like Lin-Manuel is an artist of renown, and he's incredibly supportive of the arts and the theater. They're all supportive of diversity. They're supportive of inclusiveness. They believe that every person has a right to everything in the world, and that it deserves respect. That's where I see that these national influencers come into play, and you have to have them. Think if we didn't have them. Think if we had Kid Rock. So I think you have to balance. There's always a balance. There's always pros and cons to everything. So I worked in a world where it was 50% plus one, and you were good to go. And but, we have to learn that there are balances, and we have to look at all these sides. But we need all of them too. The world needs them. Any others? Yes. Last question.
Yeah, just to clarify your point, how do we enact this view without the same sort of influence that these people have?
I'm sorry, could you say it again?
Yep. How do we enact this this change, this opportunity that you're talking about, without the same sort of influence that these people have, like Snoop Dogg?
I sure can't hear you. So.
Like, I think she's trying to say, like, we don't have as much influence as Bad Bunny or Snoop Dogg, but how do we continue on in our local community to promote the humanities and stuff like that?
You know, speak up right here, right now, for what you believe in. That's it. It's right here, right now. If you support the Museum of Art, let everybody you know that you support the Museum of Art. You know, that is what helps us. And what I don't understand all of the social media. We just talk about 4 billion hits and whatever. What does that mean? I try to sort that out myself. But I think that what you're seeing is that so much of this is moving at the national level and so fast. And it's the economics of it all that is going to impact us at some point in time. And the other worry for cultural institutions, of course, is inflation. And if there's one evil, it is inflation. If it's were to go, I remember in the 80s when it was 19%, 18%, it impacts the humanities tremendously. So clearly there's a lot to worry about, but there's a lot to be proud of, and there's a lot of work to be done. And we can do it. You know, this Museum of Art expansion, I like to look at it and you think of how many people were involved. I would say that there were at least 1,000 people directly involved in making this museum happen. It wasn't 1 or 2 or 3 people, it was a lot of people. And that's where you all come in. Be a volunteer, be a member, support the humanities. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.